Touchdown! Your Bulldogs just won in overtime. A 2-yard push into the end zone and an overtime victory for your Kearney Bulldogs.
The Bulldog Radio Network proudly presents the Coach Minnick Show on KMO-TV and 102.7 FM, Kearney's hometown radio station. And now here's the hosts of the show, Mike Davis, Jim Dickerson, and Coach Logan Minnick.
That was our live studio audience right there. Obviously, we've expanded a little bit. A lot of people are showing up here. Welcome to the Coach Minnick Show. I am Mike Davis along with Kelly Gentry and producer-engineer Brian Watts and Coach Logan Minnick, the head coach of your Kearney Bulldogs, Class 4A state champions. Congratulations, Coach. Great to have you with us today.
Well, thank you very much. Really excited to have this show today. I was a little nervous going in, not knowing how we would come out and how this show would be this week. And then, obviously, it's been a really fun week. It's been chaos. I can't believe I thought, it's over, and it's like, when you're done. And then I've done more this week than I think I did last week. But just unbelievable. I mean, we didn't have any doubt this was happening when I was hired 2 years ago, right?
Right.
But just so proud of our kids. What an unbelievable effort. What a showing from our community down there. I mean, so loud. They traveled so well. Just overall, so awesome for the whole Kearney community.
Well, one of the things that we thought about as before we went on the air was we sort of talked about this, that Kearney has won 5 state they had won 5 state championships prior to this, right? Runners up. Am I right about that? Runners up on 1.
Yeah.
This is the 5th.
This was 5th.
This is the 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. All of that to say, there are many schools who have terrific football programs who've never won one. They've not sniffed a state championship. Right. So we've talked about this in a way that well yeah, of course, this is Kearney football. We should be back in the state championship game.
Right.
I mean, at least once a year.
Yeah.
But
no pressure, Coach.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah. but I would like to point out. I remember a couple of years ago when we were not sitting in this room but in the other room, and you had first started here as coach. And you said banners up. That was our hashtag for the year. And I thought, well, that is a great tactical goal, I think,
right.
to have. And I like that that was the overall plan. And then this year you came back with a strategy, and that is finish.
Right.
How do we get banners up? We finish. I love the way those two things work. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. Obviously, last year with the 10-0 start, everybody was really excited, and we didn't quite finish the way we wanted to finish, so that was kind of what fueled our fire all off season and all our weights and everything, going forward. And we had a bunch of kids back from last year's team that started last year, so you had an experienced team that still had that taste in their mouth of that loss to end their season. So they finished, but yeah. Banner up, baby. We're so excited. They had a fall sports assembly today at the high school, and we drew 2023 on a piece of paper, and Bryce Page jumped up and stuck it onto the banner there in the gym. So Dave Zorzenbach needs to get on there. It's been like 4 days. Yeah. We don't even have the year up on the banner yet. But yeah, so excited. And then I told our kids, when I got hired, they hired me here to put banners up in the gym, and didn't know it was going to happen this quickly or have the success that we have. But, obviously I walked right into an unbelievable talent pool of kids. We're so talented. And then you had that talent with the work ethic and the way the guys went at it this year, and we obviously got the result we wanted.
Well, and even on I'll give the coaching staff some credit. We talked about it, especially as we got through the play and into the playoffs, and even that last championship game. You guys were just so prepared for every possibility, it seemed like. I mean, even little things about like, how are we going to return kickoffs when they kick it short, or how are we going to handle our, just little things like that. It just seemed like your group, and maybe it was the experience, but also the coaching staff did a tremendous job to have the guys ready to go to execute. Literally everything was prepared for.
Right. And I've told several people that I have one of the best staffs around, and state championship week, I did so much logistics and stuff that had nothing to do with football whatsoever. And we played one of our best games, so maybe I should let my assistants do more often. But that just goes to show how good of a staff we had and how prepared those guys were and how they picked up the slack when I was doing Zoom interviews about what time we had to be where, or what hotel we were staying at, or, all that chaos of last week. We had an unbelievable game plan. I know you mentioned saying that, like our kick returns, that was something Chris Daniels worked his tail off all week on, because they didn't kick the ball deep. And we knew they weren't going to kick it back there to Grant or Manny to begin with. So we did all week. We practiced short kicks and then had actual built-in returns for those short kicks, which is something that
big time.
I never did when I was at Raytown. It was like, they kicked it short, just catch it and get what you can, and we'll take the great field position. But we actually had built-in, returns for those short kicks, and obviously it paid off. Cohen had the big one all the way down there. Jack had a big one all the way down there. So obviously we played really well offensively, but at the same time we had short fields, all day long. So that's hats off to our coaching staff and our kids executing the game plan.
Well, there was no doubt that, and you had mentioned it early last week, that you felt like you might have a little bit of an advantage at the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. And there was no doubt about it. Early in the game, Kearney started moving the football. I mean, you had the 90-some-odd yard possession that
to the goal line stand.
Right.
Yeah, that I mean, you look at that, and all of a sudden, by the second touchdown you scored in the first half, I frankly commented that Kearney's got control of this football game right now. And let's talk about the big guys. Yeah,
that's one thing you don't know until you actually get on the field, because it's hard to always judge how big they are, how physical they are, off of film. And obviously, we get them down there. The goal line stand was unbelievably huge momentum starter there. Huge play by Grant Nolan, as we've talked on here several times, about telling our kids, make them snap it again, make them snap it again. And I think he ran dang 80 yards across the field and gets him tackled there at the one. And then, it's hard to score on us when we get lined up, and you've got to run it right at our big uglies in there and try to do that. And then that first opening drive, again, we come out and we run the ham package to at least give us a little bit of breathing room. And we got 5 or 6 yards on that. I was like, okay, we may run a bunch of ham today if that's going to be how it went. And then, as the drive got started, I think we ran the ball 3 plays in a row of run, and it was like 6, 8, 15. And then, so I'm looking down at my call sheet thinking, okay, boys, it's going to be a good day. If we can, if you can move it that consistently on first down, that opens up the whole playbook. Now, at the same time, I had Cohen Jacobs asked me today, goes, Coach, how come we didn't run deuce right tight and throw the wheel route? I was like, well, Cohen, they couldn't stop blast, so we called blast. 25 times more than what we thought we were probably going to run it. But he goes, well, it would have been a touchdown. I said, Cohen, we scored on every drive we had.
Yeah, we had 10 touchdowns.
There was only so many plays I could call, and they were all working, so that one just kind of got shuffled to the bottom. But again, dominant on the line of scrimmage, and I think that was obviously the difference in the game, because they were super athletic everywhere. They had skilled kids everywhere, but we just lined up and got after them on the line of scrimmage, and that was definitely the difference.
Well, not to mention early on in those early drives, you guys gave them a taste of both but Corbin and Cameron Emmons, and it was your other running backs.
Cohen Jacobs.
Cohen Jacobs, sorry.
Even Casey got it.
Yes, not to mention Casey's ability as a dual threat. And you were still in the first quarter. So these guys had to pick their poison. They didn't know who to key on.
Yeah, I didn't realize until after the game that Bryce scored, Cohen scored, Casey threw touchdowns, Manny scored, Cameron scored. It was like we spread it around. Like at the time, it wasn't in the game plan to make sure you get each kid their touches or whatever it was. Our kids just were executing at such a high level, and Casey was playing point guard and getting the ball where it needed to go. Hats off to Casey. He was unbelievable.
Oh, my gosh.
Not only in the state championship game, but throughout the playoffs. I think he put up some stats on his Twitter the other day where it was 13 touchdowns, no turnovers, and an unbelievable amount of yards. He'll definitely be in the conversations tomorrow when we go down and vote for All-State. I'll be standing on the table screaming at some folks probably, but but
I was gonna,
we were so efficient offensively because Casey played lights out throughout the playoffs, and then on top of that, when his legs got going and when we started using him in the run game, it just made us so much more diverse offensively when you had to defend not only all our backs, not only our receivers, but a running quarterback as well.
Yeah, you were talking about Casey's efficiency, 11 for 13, and I know one of those was a kind of a Hail Mary that almost went right at the end of the first half for 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, 91 yards rushing by Casey. So yeah, I mean, just and I appreciate you saying that. I'm like, well, what do I need to post to make sure that he gets this All-State award because he definitely deserved it. Especially interesting seeing him go head to head because I'm sure there are guys in the conversation too. So
yeah, he was at halftime. He was, Coach, I'm sorry I missed that throw to Manny right before half. Like there was 5 seconds and you were throwing it as far as you could throw it. He goes, call it again. I won't miss it again. I won't miss it again. I was like, well, we're going to throw it some more. You're going to have plenty of opportunities. But yeah, him and Manny all year long were so on the same page, and there were times where, like our first touchdown we threw, the safety was still there, and I said, well, we're going to take a shot after this turnover, and Manny just outruns both of them, and Casey puts it right on the money.
Yeah, we said that on the broadcast because I know you kind of look for that, and it's just, did the dominance in the running game just give you the confidence to take those shots? Because I know even Bryce was like a 3rd and inches.
Yep.
That caught all of us off guard, I'm sure them too, because I was expecting a run play, and then
Yeah, that one, I kind of would like to think I'm a good coach on that one, but when they moved the ball, it was past the first down marker. I thought it was first down.
Okay, yeah, because
and then they moved. Then they picked the ball up and moved it back, and it was 3rd and inches, and we already had fade ball called. So I'm like, well, it is 3rd and inches. It's like, so if we don't complete this, we'll run the hand package out there and get it. So it's kind of like you said, we were very confident that we could, move it a couple inches if we didn't get it there on that 3rd down, but. The play call was for a 1st and 10. It wasn't for the 3rd and inches, but I probably shouldn't tell anybody that. I should be like, yeah, we're aggressive. We're aggressive. We're going up top. But no, because they moved the ball. I was like, okay, 1st down. And I looked down, call all fades, and we knew out of that set we had Bryce singled up. But the kids ran it and executed it, and hats off to them. And what a catch by Bryce on that.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
Corner was in good position, and Bryce just said, no, that's my football. And we've been waiting for that out of Bryce all year, and he's done it all year long, but just
some big catches in the playoffs.
Right. He did one in the Jeff City game, and then that one. Not only does he go over that corner and make that catch, then he breaks the tackle of the safety and walks in the end zone. So shout out to Bryce. That was a huge play at that point in the game.
Mike even gave him a new nickname.
High Point Bryce. High Point Bryce, yeah. I mean, there's nobody else on the field that can get up that high, I don't think, not without a ladder.
Nope.
Yeah. Even that doesn't work.
Yeah. Not without a purple step stool.
Yeah, exactly right. One of the things we talked about after the game was the fact that regardless, it started to look like a track meet after a while, but regardless of the amount of scoring that was there and whatever we saw from Hillsboro, you had mentioned to me that, well, we just felt like we could continue scoring no matter what, that if they scored a touchdown, and you guys already had at least a 2-touchdown lead, more than almost a 3-touchdown lead by that time, and your ability to just answer everything they did was remarkable.
Yeah, and that once we kind of built that confidence and knew, we're going to score pretty consistently, we kind of changed our defensive game plan a little. We actually went a little less aggressive. I know you guys probably saw the quarterback had a lot of time back there at times, which all year, when that quarterback would look at his first read, if it wasn't there, he would tuck it and run. So we were going to play a bunch of coverage, and we wanted him to step up. And we had Theo spying him there in the middle. But then he didn't, man. He stood back there and held it and made a bunch of plays. But at the same time, we knew make them drive it at some point. They're going to turn it over. We're going to take it away. We're going to get a stop. And so we were like, not big plays, no chunk plays. We wanted to. So at times we were 3 high safeties over the top, and we backed Danny up in the middle, and we wanted to keep everything in front and force them to drive it. And then obviously the 5 turnovers happened, throughout that whole time. But it was one of those where it's like, no, we don't really need to blitz them. We don't really need to get after them right now, because we're giving up 80, 90-yard plays when they do make it. Let's make them chunk it and force them to drive it. And so they had some pretty good yardage output on the stat sheet, but they lost by 40 points.
Yeah,
so,
right.
They can have as many yards as they want.
And I was going to mention, I saw a post from Misha that was 1 point shy of the state championship scoring for an individual team, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, our kids are all over me about that. I had no idea.
Oh, really?
They're like, we could have scored one more. And, and I said, if we play on high school uprights, that first one doesn't bang off of the goalpost, and we would have just kept kicking extra points, and we'd have had 70 because we went for 2 late. Because at that point I thought, well, at some point here we may get up 35. We may not be up 35 very long with, as well as they were moving the ball, but at least if we could get up that 35, it's going to eat some of this clock. Yeah. So that's why we went for 2, later in the game to try to get to where when it happened we would be up 35. And our kids were like, why didn't you just kick it? We could have at least tied it. And I was like, boys, I had no idea what the record was. That
Never crossed you.
I would have taken 7-6 win. I didn't care, but it would have been cool. We'll still be on there second all time. But unbelievable.
Well, for a state championship game, that is a lopsided score. Let's just be honest about it. And we saw how talented Hillsboro is and how loaded they were with skill guys and across the board athletes. We've seen it. We got to take a break, Coach. We're going to come back and talk some more about the terrific victory down in Columbia, Missouri last Saturday. Stay with us on the Coach Minnick Show. There's more to come.
Today's business environment is more challenging than ever before. Exceeding customer expectations and staying ahead of the competition make dependable air travel essential to your business. The time-saving convenience of aircraft ownership is a more realistic solution than you might think. Imagine no lines, no waiting, and the ease of traveling on your own schedule. EquityJet is a full-service aviation management company. From aircraft acquisition, refurbishment, crew services, maintenance, and door-to-door travel service, EquityJet gets you where you're going quickly and comfortably. Find out how EquityJet can help streamline your jet travel needs. For more information, visit equityjet.net or call 816-804-7072. EquityJet. Travel is more than just getting there, it's how you get there.
That gives Kearney Bulldogs first down. Casey Rooney looking to pass, looking downfield, over the middle, looking for Linthicum in the end zone. Touchdown!
Oh, my goodness.
Touchdown over the middle, Manny Linthicum. And that was a 34-yard touchdown pass on the money by Casey Rooney.
There's your post pattern right there, and he got over the top, and Manny Linthicum was wide open, and there was a little bit of coverage, but those guys were in what looked to be a zone coverage, and I mean, you cannot allow Manny Linthicum to get loose like that.
A sudden change play like that right after the turnover, coach aggressive going, and Manny outran the DB and the safety on that one. They had a safety over the top, and he got behind him.
What a thrill it was for us to be up in the booth too.
Yeah.
By the way, that is hallowed ground. If you're a Mizzou fan, Mike Kelly's been sitting up there for I don't know how long, and the fact that we got to go up there and call this game from
Right.
the sixth floor.
Yeah, that was a highlight for us.
Just amazing.
Yeah, our coaches were supposed to be up there. You had the option to go up there, and they had said in the past some teams had some issues with their headsets, like high school headsets going that far. Our headsets worked fine. Our video replay stuff was kind of sketch going that far from the sideline to up there. So,
It's up there.
So we didn't want to chance that. So I know you guys saw the tents they had set up for us behind there, but I know our coaches were excited, like, it's going to be so cool, we're going to be up there, and then they didn't quite get to be up there. But yeah, I'm sure that was awesome for you guys up there. It's way up there,
Yes.
isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I remember when we played, we were at Missouri State the year we lost it, but I was in the press box, and so far it's like everybody's so little down there. But yeah, that's exciting for you guys. I'm glad you guys got to
Very
experience
cool.
that.
I want to talk about Grant Nolan for just a second on defense, because I'm sorry, yes, for sure, Grant Nolan. I mean, unbelievable play on running down number 22 and stopping that. I mean, there is no way that that's Peyton Brown, right? Number 22. He was the running back.
Yeah, he made a great catch
He
on
did.
a well-defended
He
ball.
absolutely. It popped up in his hands. He was able to reel it in and get downfield with it. And I don't think he had any idea that Grant Nolan was anywhere near him. And I mean, talking about the closing speed, that's just, you don't expect to see things like that in a state championship.
Yeah, that's something they asked me about in the Misha interview after the game. They're like, "Where did 19 come from?" It's like he runs like that. Like he's different. Like he's gonna shock some people with some of his track times this year as well. And I joke with him all the time too. I was like, "Well, he sat out 2 months. He's got the freshest legs on the field."
That collarbone got in the way.
And he did that 2 weeks in a row. He ran down the kid from Jeff City the week before.
Yes.
And that's just an element that got added to our defense when Grant came back, of knowing, you're not going to get huge chunk plays without having to outrun Grant Nolan on those.
Right.
Anytime you can add that kind of speed in your back end, that's why they're called the free safety. He can help us out on that. And as we said, what a huge play that was. He could have just given up on it and let him score.
Yeah.
Tackles him at the 6-inch line, and next thing you know, we had the football and we're going the other way. So
Yeah.
I was gonna.
that may have been the difference in the game right there.
The momentum of that
Right.
seemed huge at the time, and there's some pictures that I think Kristen got and posted. She has a series of photos of the last stop on the fourth down, and Tyrus Smith just blows up. He got doubled. He got doubled hard, right? But then Jack and Theo came in right behind him. It's so cool to see the photos of it. So you talk about that all the time. Sometimes those guys up front got to take on extra defenders to allow the linebackers, and that was I thought of what you said at that time. I'm like, that's a great example.
Yeah, our defensive line played so unselfish, and because they liked to run the football and they were physical up front, and there were so many plays where they literally put their bodies on the line, like Aiden Smith several times, threw it in there. Like he was beat and battered, and at halftime we're duct taping him back together. Felt like if you ever watched Wizard of Oz when they were stuffing straw back in. That's kind of what we were doing with Aiden at halftime. And and hats off to him. He played banged up all year long and was an absolute warrior. And
Man, you couldn't tell it.
no,
he was a beast.
He wouldn't let you know. But it was. Owen was doing about as much as he could in there. We had bubble wrap and tinsel, and we were We were just putting bodies together as best we could, but unbelievable effort from our kids.
No doubt about it. I do want to talk about Theo Grace. Now, he was the one that I mentioned during the game that I said, well, I haven't heard from him much. And it occurred to me that Theo was probably taking up some double teams himself.
Yep. Yeah, they were doing a really good job of trying to climb to Theo at the second level. And then game plan wise also, we had Theo was spying the quarterback pretty much all game. So there was times where he would have been a step slower to the running back or other things because we had him checking the quarterback, or we didn't even blitz him much in the pass game because he was just sitting there about 3 to 4 yards over the quarterback, and when he would go, Theo would go tackle him. So he had a bunch of tackles on the quarterback when he would scramble. We like to laugh at him. He got juked pretty good one time, and he was like, "Oh, coach, he got me so good." He goes, "But I didn't feel as bad because after he got me, he shook Danny too." He goes, "I got up and Danny was on the ground too. We both just looked at each other like, oh man."
I remember that play.
But what a player that quarterback is, and he's just a junior, so that they're going to be good again. And went to the Simone Awards yesterday with Theo and Cameron. They made the All Simone team and rode back with Theo, and he was like, "Well, I hope they make it back so I can tackle him again." So Theo's fired up and ready to go. Like, we can play tomorrow if we needed to.
Let's do it. We don't want this season to end. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Our kids all week have been saying, "We want to play Liberty North." I was like, "Yeah, don't get that aggressive, boys." But hats off to Liberty North as well.
Oh, yeah, congratulations
on their
to them.
first state championship and beating a team that got them the 2 years prior. So I know there's a bunch of guys from former Kearney staff over there, so we were cheering for those guys as well.
Yeah, that was exciting to see. Just a great job. You mentioned, Theo had 3 solo tackles and 6 assists. Grant Nolan had 5 solo tackles. In fact, looked like he led the team in solo tackles and 3 assists for a total of 8. But I just go down the line here, and it was so even among your defense, your linebackers. Yeah. I mean, so many of these guys those are similar numbers as you go down the list.
And that's I was going to say. Tyler Jarrett, 2 huge plays, forcing a fumble. Jack Helberg had a huge day. Danny Stanberry got one of those fumble recoveries. I mean, it was just a day of days.
Yeah.
I mean,
and both of those for sure. And I'm not sure that Tyler didn't force the one down by the goal line as well. But Tyler legitimately punched both of those footballs out. Like, it wasn't just he hit him and the ball came out. He made the conscious effort to throw that hand in there and punch the ball out, and he did it twice. Obviously, huge plays to do that in a state championship game. And finally, the turnovers came. Like we joked all year about when we went into the playoffs to start after the Smithville game, we were still like -4 turnover differential, and it's like, what is going on? How are you 10-2 and you're minus in the turnovers? And then throughout the playoffs, starting with Smithville, I think we were +13.
Wow!
And didn't turn it over.
Yeah.
So obviously, turnovers are a huge part of the game, and we got that corrected. We like to turn it over quite a bit to start the year, and we got that cleaned up, and then defense started taking it away.
Well, one of the things I noticed as we were on the path to the state championship is every team we played, even late in our regular season, you guys were just destroying people. I mean, there were lopsided scores. We were talking about how many games you played with the score, you scored 40 or more and held the opponent to 13 or less.
Right.
As we got into the playoffs, I remember we got to a couple of pretty good teams. We knew Jeff said he was going to be good. And I believe it was Savannah that had the really good running back that had put up all the numbers. And
Nevada, too.
And I think we looked at those as we sort of game planned in our own minds, and assuming you're doing the same thing, we're thinking this is going to be a tough challenge for us. And in each of those 2 leading up to the championship, you guys destroyed them.
Yep.
And then we get to the championship, and I'm like, okay, now this is where it's really going to get tough because these guys are really, really good, and you destroyed them.
Yeah, I was just here on the show just blowing smoke the whole time. Like, we knew that we were going to turbo clock every team in the playoffs. We were just sandbagging early in the year. We wanted, it wouldn't be fun to go 15-0.
No.
Where's the fun in that? But yeah, that was just. As we talked all year about, we wanted to be playing our best football at the end of the year, and obviously we were. And hats off to our kids. They executed game plans almost to perfection throughout the playoffs. So, you know, we like to think we're pretty good coaches, but at the same time, our kids were absolutely made every play that needed to be made. You know, they made plays that probably shouldn't have been made. You know, you're not supposed to beat, you know, the quarterfinal and semifinal state champion with running clocks and getting young kids in there. But somehow we did and found a way, and it was pretty exciting.
Well, and I asked you about it in the post game, which was cool to be there to participate in the Misha-sponsored interviews after. But, you know, at the beginning of the year, we had so many injuries at the beginning of the year. Like we had all commented, even on this show, we've never seen anything like this. Right. And just to overcome that adversity, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but I mean, at the beginning of the year, that was scary, right? I mean, the number of injuries.
For sure. And that's one of those deals where, you know, we really leaned on our senior leadership and those guys, you know, handling that adversity the way it was, because, you know, the 1 and 2 start and all these kids banged up, they could have just kind of mailed it in and, you know, won the games we were supposed to and, you know, have a good season. And we could have just said, well, it was, you know, the worst injury season in Kearney history. We had the team that had the possibility of going to win it. We just got injured, and, you know, we could have used that as an excuse or a crutch, and not once did that happen. So hats off to our kids, because, again, we started 6 different offensive lines in 14 games this year, and, you know, we've had, I think 7 different kids took a snap from the center this year, or, you know, pretty chaotic there. But our kids handled all that well. And I do like to joke with people, like, well, we had the freshest legs throughout the playoffs because, you know, they didn't play the first half of the season.
And did that help you with your depth? I mean, Coach, I mean, to a degree, I'm not sure you want that to happen, but did that help with depth?
I think it definitely did, because then, you know, we threw some kids in there that early in the year you didn't really know if they were ready to play varsity or if, you know, they're not a guy that you planned on using throughout the year, and then, oh, okay, he can play. He's serviceable. Or, you know, like Spencer Shaw, hats off to Spencer Shaw. And I've told him, you know, not the most talented kid on our roster, but started 4 games on the offensive line when we needed him to. He even early in the year, we were so banged up. This was before we got really banged up on the offensive line. We were down 3 or 4 JV offensive linemen, and we said, Spence, can you? He goes, Coach, I'll do whatever the team needs. So he played a JV game as a senior. That's awesome. Hats off to that kid. And then he starts, and then he got in the state championship game. I was so happy for him. But just goes to show, you know, the kind of kids we had.
Well, I think one of the things that I look at when we talk about talent and execution, I mean, obviously that's what it takes. But there's something else that you add to that, and that is a competitive spirit. Championship athletes are highly competitive. Yep. And it's an intangible. You want to think, okay, no, it's not. Of course, they're competitors. They want to win. Everybody wants to win. But I don't think it's as simple as all that. I think it is an intangible. And when you can combine that with talent plus execution, Mister, you've got a championship. Right. And that's what we've got here. That's what's so remarkable to watch.
Yeah, and that's another thing, and I know a lot of coaches are really big on it, and we definitely are here at Kearney. We want multi-sport athletes. We want them competing year-round. And if you look at our roster, you know, we've got baseball kids, we've got basketball kids, we've got track kids. You know, we've got all our linemen and D linemen right now. Yes, you're wrestling. I had a little conversation with young Jarrett. He was like, I don't think I'm going to wrestle. I'm just going to get in the weight room and get big. No, you're going to wrestle. So that was kind of the end of that discussion. But there's something to be said for, you know, being in those competitive moments. Yes. I know we've talked about that with Bryson Morrison all the time. He's been in competitive moments. You know, Caden Harris, they've been in competitive moments. We had the whole dang linebacking core this year was new guys that are baseball kids that didn't play last year. That have all, and those guys, what an unbelievable effort by Danny and Jack and Carson, you know, because that was literally their, you know, first year playing varsity football ever, and then Jack played 8 games this year. So that's incredible. I think that's something you saw as well, is those guys got better every single week, and they played their tails off in the state championship game as well.
Well, that's one of the things too. I think Jim and I were talking offline a couple of days ago, and I think that one of the first things I noticed, it wasn't until maybe the mid-season that I recognize. We kept talking about Smithville's depth, and I'm sitting here saying, Coach, well, they're so deep, though. They're going to be hard to beat. And you're kind of shaking your head, yeah. And yet, what did you show us here mid-season? All of these guys started to blossom. And and we're going, oh, my gosh, we've got a deep bench. And these guys are
even when the twos come in, I'm like, wow, we've got studs all over at the two, even in the twos. And I didn't want to forget about Cameron Emmons, just because, like, you talk about a senior leader leading the team, even especially during that injury time. But Cameron, again, with another 4-touchdown game, 20 rushes, almost 100 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And it just seemed like, I don't know how many games he had multiple touchdowns. It seemed like every one of them. So I don't know if you want to mention that.
Yeah, I think he ended the year with 24, 25 touchdowns. And again, was one that in another offense where he's not surrounded by all our kids, he's a 30-touch-a-game kid and would have had, I think he ended with around 1,500 yards. He's a 2,000-yard-plus back. I told him that after the Simone Awards, like they give out the Fontana Award for the best player in small class. And all the coaches in the Metro vote on that. I was like, well, it probably hurts you that your stats weren't as good as some of the guys around you. And I was like, and that's just a product of you being on a really good football team. So, be honored that you're here, but I still think he was the best back in, class 4 and below. So hats off to him. I did want to give Smithville a shout out. Congratulations on your conference championship. But really happy for those guys in their conference championship this year.
He brought the hardware with him.
He just did that. And this is why we love having Coach Minnick in here with us.
Coach is actually, he's been taking that trophy around all over today, right,
Coach?
It's
been busy.
It's
been busy. Today we did.
Look at that.
We did our.
Right there.
That's heavy.
Look at that.
That's heavy.
We did our parade of schools today, so we went to each school in the district, and they had the kids lined up, and we high-fived them and carried the trophy through it. What an unbelievable experience for those kids. They were so excited to see us there. It's great for our kids. Like, they got to go back and see some of their former teachers and former coaches. And
that's awesome.
And then it's a really cool, like, recruiting tool for us to recruit our own kids because those kids are, wide-eyed and smiling ear to ear about, and they can't wait until they get to be the point where they can be a Bulldog and have an opportunity to do this. So really cool thing that they did. Thank you to our school district for understanding how important that is and how cool that is, and, the connection between the high school and our lower levels. So that was a really cool experience today, and I'm glad our kids got to do that.
Outstanding. We got to take a break real quick here. I did want to mention while we were talking about Cameron Emmons, though, and a competitor, you can tell that guy is a competitor just by his body language on the field. And man, what hats off to him. Great season and terrific. Best of luck for whatever you do, Cam. Stay with us. More with Coach Minnick after this.
Today's business environment is more challenging than ever before. Exceeding customer expectations and staying ahead of the competition make dependable air travel essential to your business. The time-saving convenience of aircraft ownership is a more realistic solution than you might think. Imagine no lines, no waiting, and the ease of traveling on your own schedule. EquityJet is a full-service aviation management company. From aircraft acquisition, refurbishment, crew services, maintenance, and door-to-door travel service, EquityJet gets you where you're going quickly and comfortably. Find out how EquityJet can help streamline your jet travel needs. For more information, visit equityjet.net or call 816-804-7072. EquityJet. Travel is more than just getting there, it's how you get there.
Formation's still the same. 4 receivers split to the near side, 1 to the far. Dropping back, Rooney throws over to the far side, and that ball is up and brought in. Nice job, breaks the tackle into the end zone, and that was Bryce Page. Bryce Page went over the defender and brought that ball in, and that turns out to be a 34-yard touchdown pass.
We're going to
from Rudy.
Have to start calling him High Point Bryce, because every time he catches that football, he is head and shoulders above anybody else out there. And he not only was able to high point the catch, he broke the tackle on the second defender down there and was able to just trot into the end zone.
Super job by Bryce. He's a tall glass of water. My step stool can't even get taller than him at 6'5", 225, but way to go get it and get that into the end zone. Good counter by Kearney.
Oh my gosh, that is fun, isn't it? I mean, to just sort of sit here and relive it. I just want to give a big shout out to Jim Dickerson, the voice of the Kearney Bulldogs. He does a terrific job. I mean, this guy knows how to call a football game, and anybody that's tried to do it knows it's not an easy thing to do. But it is so much fun being with this guy and Kelly and Brian in the booth. Coach, I can't even tell you, it is a labor of love how much fun we have had this year. We have fun, win, lose, or draw, but I'm telling you, winning's a heck of a lot more fun than losing, and we just have a ball calling these games.
Oh, yeah. Well, somebody had to come out of retirement because they knew the football team was going to be good. I'm not going to mention any names, but they may be sitting next to me with a mustache. I'm not sure.
And a full head of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's that. Oh, man.
But, you guys have done an incredible job. This has been so much fun this year. This show is so much fun. You guys do such a great job of this show, and it's so cool for our kids. It's more about the kids because I know you guys are making pennies if you're making pennies doing this. So thank you guys so much because it does mean a lot to our kids. They all watch the show. Thanks for putting the Shrek picture on there. They all got really good screenshots of that. That's still on social media everywhere. But this has been so fun. I enjoy this every Thursday for sure.
Yep. 2024 season can't get here soon enough. Although I'm at an age where I really shouldn't wish time away. But I'm telling you, it is so much fun. I know, Kelly, you've got a bunch more there, and I don't want you to miss anything here.
Well, I was just going to one of the things that I had on there was just how fun it is to celebrate the kids every week, and we do this. We have a lot of fun with them, whether it's the post-game interviews, kind of shouting them out on this, and just appreciate you always taking time for us, and your transparency just makes the show a lot of fun, and like we said, we love doing those interviews. We get to, everybody says, hey, we get to kind of know these kids a little bit and their different personalities and that, and even like Cameron, holding up that state championship trophy because he's usually pretty steady.
Oh, yeah.
Steady even in his interview, and then it's cool to just see him.
Wow, he was so fired up. Just, it meant a lot more to him than some other kids, I can tell you that, because he is a very, stoic kid and doesn't show a lot of emotion at times, and that was a special moment for him.
Yeah.
I think of all the seniors that I saw lined up at the table with you in the Misha interview room. I looked at them. I gave every one of them just a quick little glance to see how they were were handling this moment. And you could tell. In fact, I was getting ready to ask Cam a question just before they ran us out of there. But
that was the only thing I was going to complain about is they gave us no time to ask the kids questions really in their interviews.
They were moving people in and out of it pretty quickly, and you had two more football games to play. So I get the logistics of it, but it was just so great to be able to see those guys lined up in that table in that room with you, knowing that they had just won the state championship. And I think about a couple of the challenging disappointments they had early in the season, like Kelly mentioned, with injuries and even that early loss to Smithville, and the way it all turned around. It just ultimately ended up that fate and skill and talent and execution and competitive nature got them right where they were sitting then.
Yeah, or as Cameron said after the game, sometimes you just got to line up and run it over their face. That's what I'm talking about. So fired up when he said that. But And, at times we did that pretty thoroughly.
Yes.
Not just in that game, but all season long.
Well, and it's hard. You had those 4 guys there, but a team like this, you had 26 seniors. Another guy that stands out, and I think we mentioned earlier, he did get a touchdown in the game. Cohen Jacobs, he was your iron dog. Just
right.
his progression from his junior year to his senior year was just incredible.
Right.
So there's just a big senior group, and I mean, gosh, they made their mark on Kearney High School football and the community.
Right. Yeah. We told them, so boys, this is forever. That's something about that. It's going to be up in the gym forever. Anytime you come back to the high school, you can point up there, and that you made Kearney football history, and we would have regardless if we'd have won or lost. But it means a heck of a lot more when you do win it. And as you mentioned, Cohen Jacobs, wow, didn't touch the field much at all as a junior, and was a kid that told himself, I've got to work harder and I've got to do these things, and did. And then I almost feel bad for him. He was just starting to play his best football the last 5 or 6 weeks of the year. Like, he really blew up, through the playoff run, had 2 touchdowns in the state championship game, blocked his tail off on several other plays.
Got
he
Manning
played
in on his, yeah.
He played in that game. He played tight end. He played receiver. He played running back. He was a blocker on ham, ran down on kickoffs, ran a kickoff back almost all the way, so those are the kind of kids that, he should be an inspiration to our younger kids of, if you weren't getting the PT you wanted this year, hard work is what's going to get you there. And Cohen mentioned that to those guys on our Mojo night, where, all the seniors get the mic and they get to stand up and talk, and it's a really special evening, and it's emotional, and you get tears and everything from
That's
tears
cool.
to celebrations. And that's what he told me, because I put it in myself that I've got to get better and I've got to do this. And so proud of the way it turned out for him.
Well, you heard me say a number of times that I felt like his breakout game was the loss to Smith.
Right.
Where he would line up wide, and he was always open. And he was also not only open, caught the ball, and got yards after the catch.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, this guy's a great athlete, and I saw him late in the season as he started to come around and really, really playing at all, as you pointed out, all these different positions. Then I see him on the quarterback club video, and he does a backflip.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute, who does that? Well, he does.
Yeah.
Cohen Jacobs does.
Him and Dan Casey, on the touchdown we threw Cohen, I said, all right, boys, we're going to line up in base. We're going to have 8-man protection here. It was 3rd and 6, I think, or something. And I said, Casey, if Manny's got off coverage, throw Manny the hitch. I said, if they're up and taking it away, we're going hitch and go to Cohen. Okay, I got you. And we look out there. The corner's 9 yards off of Manny. I'm like, all right, here comes the hitch to Manny. No, I should have known as soon as we gave Casey the hitch and go option. He didn't even look at Manny. He pumped Cohen and up the field and win. And then obviously those 2 made a play. And what an unbelievable throw. What a great route by Cohen.
How about that route?
Yeah.
I saw the video on that. I'm like, wow.
But, yeah, that was supposed to be, let's get the first down. And as soon as I gave the hitch and go option on the other side, it was in the air before we were even out of the dang timeout. But, your players make plays, and that's what was fun about this group, of giving them, those kind of options of, here, you got 2 options here, make your best decision. And I don't know if that was the best decision, but it made me look like a really good coach, so I probably shouldn't have told y'all that was what happened. But
You got to quit doing that.
I know, and I'm giving away all my secrets. But yeah, what execution by those 2 on that play.
Well, there's one kid, and I mentioned earlier that before the show, Kelly and I were talking. I said the temptation just to talk about next year, but we wanted to.
He's looking forward. He's looking to 24.
There's just one guy, because he got some playing time in the state championship, and that was Clayton Cowan. Is it
Yep.
Cowan? Okay. I want to make sure I get the pronunciation right. But I saw him down there, and he looked a lot like a clone of Aiden Smith
Yep.
from where we were. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, is that the replacement guy? Is it?
It's kind of funny. Those 2 are actually related. They're cousins.
Okay.
I think actually, in a weird way, I think Clayton is actually Aiden's uncle.
Okay, yeah.
But we call him Uncle Clay. Is what Clay's name is. But he's one that has really come on as a player. He'll be a very good player for us next year. And I know he's one of those he needs to bulk up a little bit and put a little bit of weight on. But gave us nightmares on the scout team defense. He won Scout Team Player of the Week several times throughout the year. So it was definitely a kid. That's another thing that behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, of how hard our scout team guys played to give us looks. I know throughout the playoffs, like when we would go into meetings, like for example, Clayton would come with the offense when we would watch offensive film, so that he could watch the other opposing team's defense and try to emulate, what those guys do. And so he did a phenomenal job giving us looks and letting us know, okay, that play's not going to work. We can't block Clayton on this. It's not going to work. So we do a really good job of honoring our kids and making sure, because we give out Scout Team Player of the Week every week. We give out, the helmet stickers and all that to those guys. And he's definitely one we're going to lean on next year. He needs to have a big off season in the weight room, but he's going to be a player for us.
You've got quite a few juniors coming back that are, we talked about Theo, talked about Grant. You got your kicker coming back that can play a little linebacker, so yeah, you've got a lot coming back.
We've got some really good pieces coming back. We've definitely got some big shoes to fill at several spots as well, but we can't get complacent or be satisfied with this. We're told them, 2 years ago we were the hungry dog under the porch. We can't be the fat one up there that just waves at the mailman now. We got to still get off the porch and chase him. But it was kind of funny, though, because we got back from the game Saturday and we did our senior send-off and, kind of had our little special team moment there. And I said, underclassmen, before you go, football, 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. And all the seniors started laughing, but the kids were like, okay. And I was like, no, I'm kidding. I'm at least giving you a week off. We'll see you the week after. But they would have been there, and I guarantee every single one of them would have been there at 6 if we'd have asked them to. Yeah. So we've got a really good thing going right now.
Yeah, Joe Schrantz will be back on. He is 6'4", 250, and he's a junior. And Ty Smith, we've seen so much from those two guys this year, and we were able to visit with them after the game and get a chance to sort of understand their personalities. And you look at those two guys, it looks like they're going to be anchors on your offensive line.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's, when you start peeking into next year and kind of what the depth chart may look like and who's going to play what, we're going to build around that offensive line because, you've got Sharon's back, you've got Tyrus back, you've got Ace Biddick's back, who, started all year long. You got a Callum Bomar that started several games before he got banged up. So we're going to lean on those guys pretty heavily. Corbin Emmons will be back.
Yeah, I was going to mention Corbin. Yeah.
We've got some really good pieces coming back, but we're gonna build it around being physical and build it around that offensive line and work our way out.
Brian just indicated that we want to talk about the player of the game. This is the Conrad's player of the game, and in this case, it's Casey Rooney. Is there any doubt? We want now. Casey has already won the player of the week from Conrad. So all those kids will. By the way, they get a letter jacket patch for that, and it's a very cool thing that we love doing every year. This award, though, will be a slightly different one. That the MVP for Casey. So he will get a patch, and he will get a trophy for this as well that we're going to have made up special for him. Congratulations, by the way, to the entire team. And Casey Rooney, who just, I think, overcame some tough obstacles early on with injury and so forth. But as far as we're concerned, he's an MVP and clearly was the MVP of the game the other day.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the top all-time performances by a quarterback in any class in a state championship game. Obviously when you're 1 point short of breaking the scoring record in a state championship game of any class, you probably got pretty good play out of your quarterback. And like I said, he was unbelievable throughout the playoffs. So happy for him. That's a good award. And KEH or 41 News came by and gave him Player of the Week this week as well. So that was a pretty cool deal as well. So.
Yeah, and he passed the eye test.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
It was good to see some of the Kansas City Metro awards getting the Hy-Vee award. I also wanted to mention our sponsors. We had almost a double season this year because of the playoffs. We went so deep into the playoffs, all the way to the last game in the playoffs, and we won it. But every single one of these sponsors has been with us throughout every single one of these games. So we know that they ponied up for the playoffs, which means they really, really contributed to this program and to the radio station and all of the things that are happening. Our great
fantastic relationship with the school district and clearly with football and other sports. We can't thank you enough. You are the ones that make this possible. Thank you so much for your generous contributions to the radio station, and ultimately, I think, for the kids and what we're doing here in Kearney, Missouri at large. Thank you very much for that. Coach, congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, job well done. It's been a terrific year. We'll see you, I don't know, another 7 or 8 months or so, and right here in this studio, and we'll talk about the 2024 season. Best of luck to you. Enjoy this win.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next season on the Coach Minnick Show.